What you know, alibiers, welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. It's Monday, August 25th. Wendy Adelson on the stand. We are currently at lunch. This will be out after testimony resumes, but I don't want to miss a thing. So I wanted to break this up into two separate episodes because both will be long. And also, unfortunately, Grammy is back in the hospital with AFib. So I'm going to be back and forth there today, but I'm trying to get this out for everybody to stay updated on what's happening if you're not able to watch. First up this morning was Jason Newland. He really was brought in to lay foundation for the emails between Donna and Wendy, where Donna is very involved in the divorce filings and the relocation issues. Some of the emails, Wendy asked Donna to edit responses. They also just showed Donna's control of this whole situation. And Prosecutor Kappelman really meticulously went through these emails showing Donna's role. So let's jump to Wendi Adelson being on the stand. When Wendy came in the room, Donna looked emotional. She was breathing in and out very heavily. At first, Wendy did not even look at her mom. So they start with how Wendy and Dan met. They met online in the fall of 2003, which would have been Wendy's first year of law school, and they married in February of 2006. They moved to Tallahassee, her final year of law school, which would have been the summer of 2005. They stayed there until 2006, where they went back to South Florida and spent a year at the University of Miami. They moved back to Tallahassee from 2007 to 2014, and they lived on Trescott Drive. That's where their children were born. They show a photo of that residence. Dan was killed 10 days before their oldest son's 5th birthday, and their youngest was 3.5, and they were 14 months apart. They separated in the fall of 2012, and that was Wendy's decision. She said they had talked about it several times before that, but when she did file, she said he was very upset and surprised. Part of the reason was differing views on how to raise their children in the Jewish faith. She said it was a small part to her, but it was a part. When asked if she thought he was a religious zealot, she said no, but she thought he was using religion to control her. Keeping kosher was a big issue with Dan, more so than Wendy, and so the prosecutor has Wendy explain kosher to the jury. She said Dan got more kosher over time, and he wanted to impose that on their children. That was an issue less important to Wendy, even though both her and Dan were raised in the Jewish faith. She moved out while Dan was on a business trip, and then she moved to a property that she had rented for her and the boys there in Tallahassee. At that point, the custody arrangement was nothing formal. She gives the example that his parents had come to town that weekend, so she made sure Dan had the boys. It was roughly 50-50 custody, and then a mix during the week. They bring in the divorce documents and ask if Donna was involved in drafting any of those divorce documents, and Wendy said no. When asked if Donna made edits, Wendy said that she suggested things, but she also had her own attorney for the divorce. Sometimes she would forward those suggestions to her attorney, and she admits the divorce was contentious. As far as the relocation petition that she filed, her reasoning was to provide a better quality of life, close access to close family members, and more stability and consistency. Wendy says the close family was Donna, Harvey, and Charlie. She also wanted to relocate because of what she says was an unstable employment that was dependent on grant money, so she had a good offer in South Florida. She said the assumption was that Dan would go to a better school. Ultimately, his goal was Harvard or Yale, and Tallahassee would not be a permanent place for him. She said it was important for her to have a safe and stable place for her kids, and she says she may have referred to living in Tallahassee as being stuck. She's asked if she sent an email to a friend, which said, "I do fear the worst case scenario is I'm stuck here in Tallahassee." She also emailed a friend at the same time, life in Tallahassee wouldn't compare to life in South Florida because of Charlie's boat and his hot tub. In the filing, it says the wife is merely stuck in Tallahassee until the husband decides that the time is right for him to leave. She said at this point, Dan was making unplanned announcements at the office at FSU. They would bump into each other there, and Tallahassee was referred to as making her feel claustrophobic. Wendy doesn't really remember this, so the prosecutor has her look at the email. Wendy reads, Tallahassee feels claustrophobic at times given its smallness and slowness, and the fact that my friends cycle through here with transient regularity. At this point, they have Wendy identify Donna there in court. Wendy kind of sounded like she could have gotten emotional, but Wendy said she couldn't see Donna close from the witness stand, but says she is across from her. Donna looked like she could get emotional, and Wendy's voice actually cracked. I uploaded a clip of that to the YouTube channel, by the way, so you can go watch for yourself. Donna did not want Wendy stuck in Tallahassee. She referred to Wendy as a hostage and a prisoner in being there. They bring in an email where Donna says with the judge being from Tallahassee, they may not get why Wendy would want to move back to Miami. Now, in 2012, her parents were living in Coral Springs, Florida. This is where Wendy was born. Wendy says Donna's relationship with the boys was very close in the time frame from separation to when Dan was murdered. She said Donna taught the boys how to read and play chess. She goes through the family's dental practice and says it was successful, but they never discussed money or finances. Wendy would send things about divorce proceedings to Harvey and Donna, who had that joint email account. But she said Donna would mainly be the one to respond back and took more interest in the day-to-day of the litigation. She said Donna is protective of her and emotional. She said Harvey is too, but he was just more of a straight shooter, where Donna was more emotional. When asked if Donna was controlling, she said she didn't think so, but the prosecution brings up an email where Wendy says Donna operated with emotional subterfuge. That means sneaky or dishonest, but Wendy says she doesn't think that's what she meant. By the way, Wendy having a problem remembering a lot of stuff today, so every time she says she can't remember, Prosecutor Kappelman's like, turn to tab 35, turn to tab 5. I mean, she's not letting her get away with any of this I don't remember. The prosecution mentions that Donna thought you were incapable to drive to South Florida with the kids. Wendy says not incapable, but she was nursing, and so they would come up to Tallahassee to drive back to Miami with her. But the prosecution points out this happened as late as a week or two before the murder. Wendy's asked if Donna is more dominant in the household. Wendy said Harvey was more quiet but equally strong, so prosecution brings in an email where Wendy says that Donna was the dominant force in the home. Wendy says that being a lawyer was not a popular choice in their house, but Donna was encouraging Wendy to pursue a different kind of law that would be more lucrative. She said Donna did meddle in her relationships and, in fact, created Wendy a dating profile, and she would send Wendy some of the guys that she found on these dating sites. They bring in an email from January 17th, 2013, where Donna says, okay, honey, so you think I'm nuts, but when you get a moment, check out some of these whom I've pre-screened for you. There are several different names listed. She goes on to say, after all, you're going to be in Miami here and there. Why not see what's out there? Give it a try, at least for me. But Wendy says she did not feel like Donna was walking all over her. And regarding the divorce, she said she had a good attorney and she was making decisions that she needed to make. She did tell a friend that she needed to find a way to coexist with Donna so that she didn't feel like Donna was trampling on her autonomy. Between 2012 and 2016, she's asked, how did Donna feel about Dan? Wendy said that Donna's feelings changed over time. When asked in 2016, did she hate Dan? Wendy said no. What about 2014? No. Did you say in your law enforcement interview that my parents have more reason to dislike Danny more than anyone else? Wendy said she had been sitting with law enforcement for 6 hours and was just told Dan had been shot, so I told them anything that could be helpful. Prosecution says, well, are you saying that after 6 hours you were so tired that you said things that weren't true? Wendy said, no, I was in shock and I just kept talking. When Donna is really upset about something, does she talk about it a lot? And does she specifically talk about things with Charlie? Wendy says, yes, they've always talked a lot. She's asked, was Charlie your mom's problem solver? Wendy said for the most part, Donna would help Charlie solve problems and was still mothering him like that into adulthood. At the time of Dan's murder, was your mom very angry with him? Yes. She's asked if she hated him too, and she said at certain points. Prosecution asked, did you refer to Dan as an STD? So Wendy doesn't remember. Prosecutor's like, tab 5. It says, Danny is an STD. One wrong mistake marrying him, and this will never go away. She's asked if she said that to Donna. Wendy said she didn't remember saying that to Donna, so she probably didn't say it often. Did you refer to Dan as the Dark Lord? She doesn't remember. Did you call him a derogatory name? Wendy says that was a silly name that a friend helped her come up with to make Dan feel less scary. Did you say you hated Dan? Of course, she doesn't remember, but could you open tab 31 to refresh your memory? Wendy says, I said I hate him in this moment. Prosecutor asked in the same email, you said, I hate my children's dad, and Wendy says yes. The prosecutor asked, did you refer to Dan as an emotional terrorist? She doesn't remember. Prosecutor, that's on tab 34. Wendy said that it was 7 months before the murder, and another time she said, I hate him so. She acknowledges throughout the divorce, they fought over things as small as a tennis racket. In one of Dan's responses, he said Wendy helped herself to non-marital assets, including stocks that were there before the marriage. He lists other things she took, like a bike, the tennis racket, and a family heirloom. Wendy said she took the racket by accident and she returned it. The prosecution asked if leaving him in a way to inflict maximum damage was her goal. Wendy said she didn't say it, and she doesn't remember if Donna said that. She talked to Donna about how and when she would leave her marriage. There was an email by Dan to Wendy where he said, let's put all this aside. This is about the kids, and let's act in a way that they would be proud of. They go on to show a blurred photo of the boys at that first rental home she went to after the separation. Donna helped her locate the place and helped her move in. She also came up and looked at places with her before she found this rental. Dan did threaten Wendy with federal kidnapping charges. He says she took the kids and didn't say where they were for days or weeks. Wendy said that's what he said, but that's not what happened. Wendy said they did talk about relocation before she filed, and he was up to figuring it out. But when she filed, he was against it. He said the reason that she wanted to move was to be closer to her parents. And Donna referred to that as Dan's 23-page rant. Donna emailed Wendy her thoughts about the relocation, saying that is her non-negotiable. They had 2 long mediations to try and settle this divorce, but it wasn't successful. When asked if Charlie really cared if she was back in Miami, Wendy said he wanted her close to him. And after she was denied relocation, Wendy said she respected the court's decision to stay in Tallahassee. She doesn't remember Charlie being outraged by that decision, but Donna was upset. Donna referred to it as a life or death decision because Wendy says Donna thought her life there in Tallahassee wasn't good. Wendy's asked if she would have never left Dan without Donna's suggestions. Wendy said she would have because she was unhappy. She's asked again, would you not have left without Donna's suggestion? Wendy doesn't remember, so we're turning to a tab. And Wendy reads, she wouldn't have done it on her own. She said her parents' and brothers' suggestions and support was essentially what pushed her. Prosecution asked, is it your testimony you did not get your mom to edit your responses? Wendy doesn't remember. Did Donna pretend to be you contacting financial institutions? Wendy said she had very little involvement in her own financial situation, so that may have been an account her dad created for her or one where he had signing authority. She's asked if she forwarded an email to Donna on December 19th, 2013, where Dan wanted to reconcile and was willing to make concessions. Donna replied paragraph by paragraph, refuting every reason Dan gave. Wendy doesn't remember it, but acknowledges it's there on the screen. Wendy replies, nicely done, Mom. You did great. She's asked if Donna was the one who was mainly responding in that joint email account. Wendy says that Donna could have been the scribe, and that was both Donna and Harvey's personal feelings. Donna said Dan's religious practices being forced on the boys was sick. Donna wanted Dan to have a psychiatric evaluation, and she used disparaging names referring to Dan. Prosecutor reads them out. Piece of crap, a-hole, narcissist, bully, bastard. And in an email from January 13th talking about a job in South Florida being a major bargaining chip in the divorce. And the prosecutor mentions that Donna did a lot of work making arguments to that very point. Wendy forwarded her correspondence with her mother to her attorney. She's asked about what Donna means when she refers to Wendy's South Florida legal team. She's asked if she had another attorney in South Florida. Wendy says there's a smiley face. I think she is referencing herself, and I think it's a joke. She's asked if she used Donna's questions when she met with her attorney, and Wendy said if there was something useful. Donna was the one who wanted to fight the relocation decision. Wendy said she didn't feel railroaded by her mom. Wendy said it was denied, and she personally wasn't taking any more action. And the prosecutor says legal action. But didn't your mom have other ideas? Wendy says yes. The prosecutor says she wanted to take it to an appeal, and then Donna came up with a plan to strong-arm Dan. Donna says that the derogatory name they used for him hasn't beaten the Adelson family yet. She had ideas like pretending the boys had become Christian, paying for them to get instructions on the Christian faith, and mentioned she could have them both baptized within a couple of weeks. Wendy said she wouldn't consider that. So Donna told Wendy to put on a good act. Then she's asked, do you know why your mom would Google how to teach an actress emotion? Wendy doesn't know. Donna was the one that suggested that $1 million offer to Dan split 3 ways between Donna and Harvey and Charlie. Wendy does not remember herself being included as one to pay part of that $1 million. Wendy said she never made the offer to Dan, and she doesn't think it would have worked. Wendy told Donna these ideas were crazy, and she said, I will not be introducing my kids to Christianity either way. I truly believe it will backfire. Now, Wendy says she doesn't know what she meant by that, but the prosecution said, would this have given Dan ammunition to pursue things in court? Wendy says she may have thought that, but Donna kept pushing. They bring in something that Donna sent Wendy, where it says, Charlie brought up a good point. He said that Americans were dropped behind enemy lines during World War II, wearing Nazi uniforms to get what they wanted. They had a job to get done, and they did what they needed to accomplish it. You have a job to get done and a very short time frame to accomplish it. If you dressed your kids up in Hitler Youth uniforms and brought them down here, I could care less if that was an act of defiance and would show derogatory name, he's not in control. Donna tells Wendy to rethink her decision because Dan would still be in control. Donna also says, why not stand up to this effort? Why not fight? We want to see you help yourself. Not everything one has to do in life is comfortable or easy. I don't know how much of the big picture you're seeing, honey. I don't know if you realize that not only what you can provide for your boy's life, but for your own life all depends on this change. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Everyone has a price, and now is the time to start. You said this divorce is not about winning and losing, and that it's not a competition. You've already lost relocation according to the legal system. Well, it is about winning and losing. We're trying to get a win. You deserve it. You deserve so much more than a life without family teaching in Tallahassee. They show that email with the plan for the $1 million offer, and it did include Wendy. It says, you, Charlie, Dad, and I going as high as $1 million and $333,000 from each of us. Donna tells Wendy she's been on this with her from day one and not to sign anything without the two of them discussing and reviewing all of this. Donna wanted to get him financially and get a win. Now, that divorce was final July 31st of 2013. After the shooting, Wendy gave her cell phone to police, and the prosecution asks if she was asked to authenticate voices from some of these wiretaps that were conducted. Wendy did and identified her family. But after the divorce, there was more litigation. Wendy said Dan was supposed to pay her half of the value of the house if she took her name off the title. But Dan said he would not pay for this due to his own reasons, so Wendy had to file or he would be held in contempt of court. Wendy filed a motion to enforce, and Dan filed a motion saying that Wendy was in violation of a lot of things. One of Dan's biggest complaints was Wendy's failure to facilitate communication on Skype with their sons. Wendy tells the court if she was 1 minute late, Dan would contact the parenting coordinator. In the email, it says that Donna and Wendy have made zero efforts to facilitate communications. Wendy doesn't remember if she forwarded that to Donna or not. But Dan also sent emails pleading for Wendy to play nice. It said, "I regret things have gotten to where they are. Can we resolve things together to avoid unnecessary cost?" Wendy says, didn't happen. She said she always tried to play nice. She's asked if she ceased all Skype communication between Dan and the kids on March 12th, 2013. Wendy doesn't remember. And Prosecutor Kaufman's like, turn to tab 54, please. Wendy said that's something her attorney advised her to do. She doesn't remember if she did, but if her attorney advised her to do, she probably did. Now, the day that she filed the motion to enforce and hold Dan in contempt was October 31st, 2013. She's asked if that was the same date she backed out of the contract to buy a house in Tallahassee. Wendy doesn't remember, but since Dan did not pay her that half of the value of the home, she could not buy the house. Prosecutor asked if Charlie talked her out of buying it. Wendy doesn't remember. She also doesn't remember Donna's position on her buying the house, but they bring in a photo from Wendy's phone, and that is the same day that she filed that motion to hold Dan in contempt. It's a photo of Charlie and Katie telling her not to buy the house because she won't be living in Tallahassee for long. Wendy doesn't remember and said she really wanted to buy the house. But after the Skype drama, she asked her mom to help her work on the Skype thing because it was becoming a real problem between her and Dan. February 2014, just a few months later, Dan files a motion to enforce the marital settlement, alleging Wendy committed fraud on the court, and the court should send a strong message by giving him the assets that she didn't disclose. Donna then responded they needed a plan of attack. Ultimately, Wendy's attorney had to recuse herself from the case and become a witness, and Wendy had to get new representation. Wendy filed a response to his counter motion, alleging a vast majority of his motions contain allegations that are scandalous, unimportant, and not pertinent. She's asked, around this time, did your mom move? Wendy doesn't remember. The prosecution asks about the complex The Continuum in South Beach. Wendy said they didn't move until 2015, but they were visiting there on the weekends. The prosecution said, but they signed a lease in March of 2014, and this is where you went when you left Tallahassee after the murder, and we will get to that later. Wendy agrees that is where she moved to. She's asked, why did they choose to move 3 to 4 months before the murder? Wendy said Charlie had a girlfriend there, and he liked the property and thought maybe Donna and Harvey would like to retire there. Donna added Wendy as a resident in that complex on May 16th of 2014. Of course, Wendy doesn't remember that, but says the apartment complex had really high security, so if you wanted someone to come as opposed to being seen as a visitor, they would need to be a resident. They move on to the grandma motion, where Dan is trying to have supervised visits between Donna and the grandkids, and Wendy says she doesn't remember this motion. The prosecutor talks about the boys telling Dan that grandma says you're stupid, she hates you. Oh, now Wendy remembers. That motion was not heard before his murder, by the way. Wendy did not forward Donna that motion. The allegations in Dan's motion were emailed to Wendy before he filed it. And they read where their son says, grandma says you're stupid, and other times they said that Donna has told the kids Dan was trying to take her sunshines away and she hates him. Now, someone responded to that email, wow. Wendy doesn't know if it was Donna or Harvey responding. She said she was just shown that yesterday. Wendy forwarded Dan's email to Donna and 12 other people. She said she was surprised he was accusing a member of the Florida bar, meaning her, of fraud. He was going to all the lengths to avoid paying her. That next day, Wendy forwarded the email with the parenting coordinator's responses to Donna. And a couple of months before the murder, Dan said a friend of Wendy's named Jane told him that Wendy said Dan is a monster. Wendy says she doesn't remember calling him that. That is where we left off before lunch. I will have part 2 out later this evening, not sure how late, but it will be coming. That's it for now. We will see you soon.